Hello, it's Charles Fockaert on February 13, 2018. I welcome all of you. Thank you for watching and liking and sharing and supporting this channel. I want to get right to it. This is about the economics that's happening right now. And 2 weeks ago or so, I did a video on the two major policy changes taking place in the United States. One was we're no longer emphasis on the war on terrorism. It's switched to now the biggest threat is Russia and China. I'm not going to talk about that, but that all has an effect. That was part of the reason for the second change, and that is on no longer a strong dollar policy. They're not going to support the dollar as much as they were, and that's because they're having a very difficult time supporting or propping up the the petrodollar. And so they've had to make the switch because the rest of the world is rejecting our money, folks. If you live here in the United States, this is going to affect you, and I want to talk about that now. I don't usually talk about economics, but it's very important that you understand economics because economics is not taught. It's taught. We're taught that economics is very difficult to understand, and that's a lie. Of course, surprise, surprise, right? I had to unlearn all the economics that I learned when I was in school. And somebody said an education starts when you unlearn what you were taught in school, and I believe that 100%. I was working my way through college as a handyman while I was taking classes in economics for an economics degree, which I did earn. And I had to, the reality was one thing. The reality that I was living and working in and having to support my family while I was going to college was different than what I was learning at school. Thank goodness I learned from Dr. Stuart Crane, and he taught me how to learn the reality. And that's the point I want to make here. We live, and I've made this point many, many, many times. We live in two worlds. We live in the reality, and then we live in an illusionary world. And most Americans live in an illusionary world. The world that's been created for them by Talmud vision, Hollywood movies, the news, the CNN, the CNBC, the talking heads, you name it. That's where most people get their view of the world that they live in. The spinning spear earth, their education system. We're brainwashed and programmed to believe a certain way, and the reality is completely different than what we've been taught. And there's still some clowns out there that are clinging to the spinning spear lie that we've been told, and the same clown is telling people that gold and silver are not important, they're not money, etc., etc. And that's right here in the Israelite identity realm, sphere, or world, if you want to. And I'm here to tell you that gold and silver are money, and I want to bring that up here in just a minute. Something happened on January the 3rd that's very important, and that is, and this happened back in 2008, and it just happened again, worse. I don't have a graph to show you, but in 2008, you remember the banks were in a big problem and they had to get bailed out. They were going to have martial law and all this stuff, and the world was going to collapse unless we bailed the banks out. Well, nothing's changed since then. It's gotten worse, as a matter of fact. And back then in 2008, after that collapse, if you will, of the banking system that was propped up and saved, the bank bailouts, the banks didn't want to loan to each other. They have interbanking overnight loans, they call it. and they borrow money from each other to stay liquid, and they didn't want to loan money to each other because they were afraid they'd never get paid back. Well, that's happening again now, folks. The amount of banks loaning to each other has dropped to the lowest point. And so the banks are telling us something. The banks are telling us that they're in trouble. They're insolvent. And they don't want to loan to each other because they don't know who it is that's going to go broke first, and they'll never get their money back, and that'll cause their bank to go broke. All right, so you've got to understand that there's a problem in the banking system because the banking system is built on debt. It's built on fractional reserves, and it's all a big scam. It's all a big fraud, folks. Esau Edomites control the money supply and the economics in the world for the most part. And anybody that steps out of line, Libya, for example, Iran, North Korea, they don't have a Rothschild central bank. They get hammered. Okay, we can all agree on that. That's a fact. The system is accelerating in its collapse. It's going on right now. It's not going to be a one-time or a one-day event. It's happening right now. And one example is what's going on Wall Street, which is being propped up by the plunge protection team. I don't want to go into all the details. This will be a very, very long video. But in the days of Ronald Reagan back in the 80s, after the 87 crash on Monday in October, they put in the President's Working Group on Financial Markets, I think they called it. The nickname is the Plunge Protection Team. Whenever they see, it's all computer run now, whenever they see the price dropping like they have here in the last week or so, they prop it back up. They have unlimited funds, and they buy all the stock back, and they keep it up. So it's a big balloon. They pump air, and they pump, and keep it up, okay? And it's getting harder and harder and harder for them to keep the whole system up. The banking system, the stock market, and all the rest of it. Because they place all these bets on all the, they call them derivatives. And once this starts to crumble, all of those side bets all going to come into play, and the whole thing's going to fall down like a house of cards. Alrighty, so that's one thing that we need to be aware of, and we're very, very close now. It's amazing how long they've been able to prop this whole thing up, isn't it? Everybody thought, and I myself included, that there was no way they're going to be able to hold this thing together. But they have been. Band-aids here, bubble gum here, and fingers in the hole, all 10 fingers and toes and everything. They're holding this thing up as long as they can until they get everything else in set up. They're trying to set up a new monetary or financial system to take the place of the one that's collapsing, which has been in effect since 1913. There's so much here that I could go into, all the laws, and they got out of they removed the gold from the Americans. No longer could hold gold in 1933. Then they took out the silver from the coins in 1965. They took away the redeemable, and I don't have them here with me, but I have some back in Montana. The redeemable, the bills that were redeemable in silver and gold certificates. They took all those out, and then in 1971, Nixon went off of the gold standard. So all the money now, all over the world, is now fiat currency, 100%. And when Libya tried to come up with a new monetary system, they attacked Libya, and we all know what happened to Gaddafi. All right? Take a breath here, and I'll be right back. I want to put in here, you remember Trump? They got this new tax code out there. They had to do that. They dropped the corporate tax rate, I think, from 35 to 15, and they're repatriating all the corporations' money held offshore, and they want to bring it back here to the United States, and these corporations are buying back their own stock buybacks. That's keeping Wall Street propped up. Wall Street is nothing but a scam. It's a Ponzi scheme to get the goy in, all the retailers, and they prop it up, and then they all get out ahead of the sheeple, and then they let it fall, and we're getting close. This is another tool in their toolbox. See? Corporate tax rate from 35 to 15, bring the money back, prop up the stock market, make the economy look good for a while, and then crash is coming. The Esauites are telling us that silver and gold are not money, and let me play a clip, a real short clip here for you with Bernanke lying to Ron Paul.
Do you think gold is money?
No.
It's not money. Even if it has been money for 6,000 years, somebody reversed that and eliminated that economic law.
Well, it's an asset. I mean, it's the same. Would you say Treasury bills are money? I don't think they're money either, but they're a financial asset.
Why do central banks hold it?
Well, it's a form of reserves.
Why don't they hold diamonds?
Well, it's tradition, long-term tradition.
Well, some people still think it's money. I yield back. My time is up. Thank you.
Now, the governments are not going to allow the cryptocurrencies. They're going to do everything they can to stop us from having these encrypted currencies where they don't know who's exchanging value for value, being able to purchase things using these cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum and all Litecoin and all the rest of them. They've been working on their own cryptocurrencies, encrypted currencies, and they're going to have to bring that out. They call it, I mentioned in the other video that they have another name for it, and I can't remember what it is right now because I don't think about it as much as others do. But the banks are going to blockchain technology. They have to. That's the new monetary system, and when they do that, you're going to be required to do certain things in order to have an account. I tried to set up an account to be able to purchase a few dollars worth of Ripple. That's the bank. That's the financial token put out by Ripple to be able to transact business across borders to replace the SWIFT system. Alrighty, and they had me. I got to go through a whole bunch of hoops. I got my passport photo, my an address, a physical address on a utility bill, which I don't have because I live in my RV. And all this stuff that I had to do, and I sent it all in, and it wasn't good enough. I didn't have the physical address, etc. My picture was blurry. They said blah, 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 blah. So they want to have you, the individuals in their system, identified, that they know who you are. They have your photo, and they know exactly who you are, and that should be scary, folks. And I'll get to that in a minute if I don't forget. Alrighty, they want us all in the system, because if we're paying cash, and I notice that I'm one of the very few people that when I buy stuff down here at the market that I actually pay cash for what I go, when I get my money back from my money, they call it a benefit. When I get my own money back, which they call a benefit from Social Security, I go down and I draw it all out. I draw it all out as quick as I can so that I have very little money in their hands. It's in my hands in cash. And I go down and pay cash. Now, a lot of these younger people, they're not paying cash. They're using their card. I saw a guy yesterday buy a roll of Mentos or something, and he stuck his card in there to buy that $1 roll of Mentos, folks. They don't even have $1 on themselves anymore. And these younger people are going to get trapped into this system, and they're not going to be able to buy anything without the government knowing that you're buying it. And because the Federal Reserve note has run its course. It's now down less than 3%, worth less than 3, maybe even less than that, than what it was in 1913. And I want to get to that right now. I want to show you why they need to switch over. They can inflate this, and the Federal Reserve System has been talking about inflating. We need more inflation, because when people realize that things are going up, and I remember this distinctly in 1970s when the inflation rate was increasing. I was working my way through college, and after I got out of college, I was working, and I had my degree in economics, and I was being taught by Dr. Stuart Crane. When I'd get my money, I'd say, well, things are going to be more expensive tomorrow, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy what I need next week or next month. I'm going to buy it now because it'll cost less now than it will later. And that's the velocity of money was increasing. And I saw it and I experienced it firsthand. We're not there yet, but that's what they want. They wanted that because that increases the economy. When people are spending the money, people are buying stuff instead of holding on to their currency, it creates the increase in the economy, and they can call that growth. But we don't have any growth right now. So they're trying to create inflation, and they can't do it, and that's why the system is failing. And they're going to have to go to this other system where everybody's transactions are tracked, and they can't hold their wealth outside of the system. And I want to show you why. I want to show you the difference between nominal and actual. On the face of this dollar bill, it's $1. That's the nominal value, $1. But the actual value is less in 2018 than it was in 1913 when these first came out. And I want to show you an example here. I wrote it out. Hopefully this will work. And I'm gonna try to explain this as we go. I remember this now because in 1968 I was 16 years old. And I was working my first job. I got my Social Security card, and I was working, and I remember distinctly the minimum wage was $1.65. And I'm going to drop that down. Let's say the tax is 15 cents an hour. So instead of $1.65, you get $1.50. I distinctly remember because I worked at Arco gas station, Al's Arco, in West Covina, California, and I remember the gas being 25 cents a gallon. So you divide 25 into 150, and you could buy 6 gallons of gas for 1 hour of work. 2018, I just checked, the federal minimum wage is $7.25. So let's just say the tax is $0.25 an hour. I know it's more than that, but I'm going to be conservative, and let's just say the take-home pay is $7 an hour. And I checked the gas prices, the average gas price. The gas price in Los Angeles is $2.50 for Supreme, and right here in Overton it's $3 a gallon. So that if you divide 7 by $3 a gallon, you can now I can only buy 2.3 gallons of gas, whereas back in 1968, for the same minimum wage, you could buy 6 gallons of gas. Now, I want to show you the difference between real money, which is silver, and I want to thank you, Joe. He sent me this one half troy ounce pure silver, and this is an American Eagle. And I don't know if you can see this, but on the back of the coin, it says 1 ounce fine silver, and right there it says $1. $1. This also says $1, and this says $1. And I want to show you on the legal definition in the 1792 Coinage Act. $1 is 371 4/16 grain of pure standard silver. I don't know if I can get that on the screen or not there, but see that? $1, it's defined. The light, sorry folks, but you have to believe me, you can look it up yourself. So $1, this is not $1. $1 is 371 4/16 grains of pure standard silver. This is silver. This is $1. Again, this is not $1. This is $1. 371 4/16 grains of pure silver. That's $1. This is not $1. They're lying to you. Imagine that, huh? Okay, now I want to show you the price of silver, real money, the price of silver right now, which is being suppressed, it's being manipulated, it's being managed. They don't want it to go up. It's the canary in the coal mine. They don't, Goldman Sachs and the Esau Edomite boys, the white shoe boys in New York and Chicago there, and London, that I'm talking about the city of London. They don't want the price of silver to go up, and they want you to think this is not money, like the Ben Bernanke. He gets paid to lie. Everything you think you know is a lie. Get that through your head, and you're going to be way ahead of 99.9% of the people out there. So silver, you can buy an ounce of silver right now for about 17 of these. And gas is $3. You divide 17 for one of these by the price of a gallon of gas is 5.66 gallons. Suppressed. And that's pretty darn close to the 6 gallons that I could buy from 1 hour of wages in 1968. Point being, this real money, gold and silver, they maintain your purchasing power. And when Wall Street collapses, when the stock market collapses, and the price of your home collapses, and I want to talk about that. I got a little thing here I want to go look at right now. Let's go have a look at that. Now, a lot of people think I'm going to buy my house and this is going to be a hedge against inflation, blah, 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 blah. And you go into debt for 15 or 30 years or whatever, adjustable rate mortgage and all that. All these Esau Edomite bankers, they get you in long-term debt. But look at this. The word mortgage is an old French term, and the word mort means dead, and the word gage is a pledge or a contract. So a mortgage is a contract of death. It's a death contract. You know, the American dream, you get your 3-bedroom house and 2-car garage and all that stuff, but you go into debt to the bankers and you end up paying 3 times over a 30-year payment period if you don't make prepayments. and they get you into debt, and you go to work, and you 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 think you're getting ahead because now your house is worth $250,000, and you only paid $100,000 for it. But in nominal terms only, folks. Learn the difference between nominal and real terms. And that's the point I want to make here. What they're going to do is they're going to try to force everybody into their system so that they can now create negative interest. You have all your assets in their system. You don't have anything on the outside. And then they can start to charge you. Let's say you have $100,000 nominal terms in the system, in the crypto encrypted currency. Everything's only on paper now, only on the computer screen. And they say, you know what, we need to increase the economy. We need people to spend more money. So you know what they're going to do? They're going to say, okay, we're going to charge you 1% of your 100,000 digital currency that you have in your account. So the next month, now you only have 999 digital currencies instead of the 100,000. You see what I'm saying? And if that doesn't work, they'll increase it the next month. And they'll be able to do that just like that. They won't have to wait. There won't be a lag time when they do the policy change. They can do it immediately. And that's what they want. And they're going to couple that with the 5G, which Trump has just come out, and I'm still going to stick to my assertion there that I made a long time ago, before Trump was even elected, or maybe shortly thereafter. Trump's going to be worse than Obama. Trump is going to nationalize the entire 5G system. They're going to be able to track everywhere we go and everything we do, every purchase we make. They're going to be able to track it. And that is going to be the ultimate slavery. We're already slaves now. We're work slaves. You go to work, you buy this house, you pay the bank, you pay 3 times what the house is worth over a 30-year period. You buy your truck on making payments. It's debt, 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 debt. The Bible says, do not go into debt. Usury, interest payments is against God's law, and we break God's law all the time. I've been there, folks. I understand. I've done it. I'm guilty of it just like everybody else. But at least I only bought assets, land, and things that appreciated over time, and not so much the depreciating items. But that's a soapbox for a different day. They want us in debt. We're slaves to them, folks. And if we understood that we live on a level playing earth that's not spinning, and everything around us is an illusion that we've been brainwashed and programmed into accepting, maybe we'd wake up and say, you know what? God was right. Yahweh was right. You cannot serve 2 masters. You cannot serve Yahweh and money. And that's what the majority of us do our entire life. And we're slaves to the Jew, to the interest-bearing debt system that the Esau Edomites have set up. And they use their Talmud vision and their movies and their advertising, their markets. You got to have this perfume. You got to have this ring. You got to have this car. You got to have this truck. You got to have this flat screen. You got to have the bigger house. You got to have this. You got to have that. You got go. Spend. Slave, slave, slave. And they tax you every step of the way. And we're nothing but a big slave system. We're nothing but slaves. And they give you the illusion of you get to choose. You get to choose your occupation. We're not picking cotton. We're not rowing the boats. But you get to pick your choice your occupation of slavery. And if you're an attorney and the doctor, you got the nice wall-paneled office and the secretaries and the comfortable leather chairs, and you act like a big shot, and you're hot stuff, and you drive the new Beamer and all. You're slaves. You're nothing but a slave. And I tell you what, since I stopped working, I've never felt better in my entire life. This is the way we should be able to live our entire life, folks. We shouldn't be slaves to the Esau Edomites, and we are. And maybe, just maybe, when this whole thing crashes, and they're doing everything they can to make sure that it doesn't crash, and they get their new system in place before it does. But if it crashes, that's what we need too. Most people are not going to wake up until they cannot buy the beer for the refrigerator, and they can't watch their football game, and they can't drive around in a brand new car. Then they'll wake up. Until then, I don't think anything's going to change. But I hope that little bit of an economic lesson has helped. And I'm telling you, get out of debt. It's a death contract, and get as much real money, gold and silver, as you can. Trade in this fake paper currency. You know, if I had a fire, this would burn up. This wouldn't. I could pick through all the rubble here, and I would still have these coins left. This would burn up. That ought to tell you something, folks. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for supporting this channel. And may the grace of God our Father be with us all, for we most certainly need it. See you.
In America, you have a right to be stupid, if you want to be.